Hello, welcome to another video, and this time we're going to be talking about transfers. You see, West Ham, the whole transfer window, we've been going off the strategy of let's sign players who are maybe on the fringes of Premier League squads, who are probably just about good enough to be in the Premier League, or some who maybe just aren't quite good enough, and let's sign them, and then they'll get us promoted and they'll be good next season, right? They'll be useful next season. Which I think has been a very risky strategy, and I don't think it's really worked. It's taken a long time to get players through the door, and it's ultimately, you know, we're now not prepared for the season, right? We saw the other day the bench was horrendous, just such a lack of quality in the depth of the squad. And our starting 11, whilst it's good, still has some holes in it. We still had 2 academy players starting in midfield, who individually, if one or the other was starting with an experienced professional, I think it would have worked. I think together, we just struggled for control in possession and out of position. I think they were both quite weak. Although they grew into it, right? They grew into it. I'll give that to them. They didn't start very well. And, you know, because at the end we sort of retreated back and stopped trying to play football, I think they didn't cope with that. So the question is, do we keep up with this strategy of trying to get players from the fringes of Premier League squads? Or do we think, okay, let's stop looking upwards and start looking sideways, right? At players in our division who are very good. Because in the past, as some people have pointed out, we got promoted because we bought good players from the Championship to get us promoted. And I think there's a lot of quality in the Championship, right, that we could look at and that we could contemplate. So I thought today we'd talk through some players I think would be really good for West Ham in the Championship. We're going to look at a range of clubs and a range of names and a range of styles. And I think some of these players will probably be very unpopular. Right, I'll say them and people will be laughing at me. But there's a reason I'm saying them, okay? So let me just get my trusty iPad out. Okay, right. Got the iPad, yeah? Let me get up FootMob so I can just assess our options. We'll talk through the first one, right? So what positions we need? We need a striker or 2, right? I think we need another left winger who could possibly play right wing. Right, we need a versatile winger. Because we do have La Madrid, right, who is a left winger, right, who can play on the left wing. So if we need a backup winger, really we need someone who can also play right wing, because we need someone to be backup to Bowen. Unless we get a good right back in, we need a right back as well, because if we get a good right back, Walker Peters could play some games right wing to give Bowen a break. He did that at Southampton. I think he played on the wing when they were in the Championship a little while ago. And I think he was all right there. I think we need a midfielder. I think we need a centre-back. Some people argue goalkeeper. I don't think we desperately need one. If we could sell Areola in and get a good backup, I would be all right with that. I think Areola's wage is probably quite expensive to be a backup goalkeeper in the Championship. But let's have a look at some of the options that I've been looking at. Now, number 1 is a striker. Right, let's look at strikers. So there's a few strikers. You've obviously got Richard Kone. Is that his name? Yeah. At I was going to say Wickham then. He was at Wickham. He's at QPR now. Right? Obviously one that I think we got linked with when he was at Wickham. I think. Did we not? Last season he scored 10 goals in the Championship in his first season. Was that his first season in the division? After having scored 21 for Wickham the season before. I love the story of Richard Kone, how he's come from the Homeless World Cup. He's gone to Wickham, had a really good couple of years at Wickham, and now he's moving on to the Championship with QPR. I think last season he was good. I think when we played QPR, I was impressed. I thought he looked good. He played well. I wouldn't mind this one. One bit. Obviously, you know, he's not the best player ever, right? He would be a good option. I think he's quite, mobile, quite good. He's on the younger side. He's only 23 years old, so he's still got a bit of scope to improve. Is he ever going to be Premier League quality? I'm not sure. Probably not. But, he's good in the air. Looking at the player traits, 81% in the air compared to players in his position. 87 for defensive contributions. That's really good, especially the way we play under Nuno. We need someone who's going to have a high percentage in that sector. 64% for chances created, so he can help other players around him. He can link up, he can drop deeper, he can play off someone, right? Which again is something we want. 79% for touches, so he's happy on the ball. He'll get a lot of touches the ball. He'll get himself involved, which again is something we want. And he's got 10 goals. To me, looks maybe like Pablo, but can actually shoot. Yeah, as you see here, he can play attacking midfielder. That just means he has done at some point. Whether he's actually any good at it, I'm not sure. I've only ever seen him play up front, and I think he'd be a solid player. Though he didn't start the other day for QPR. I'm not sure why that is. Although he did play 68 minutes when they played Derby, and he scored a goal. So yeah, I don't know why he didn't start against Portsmouth for them. Maybe he's injured or got a knock, or maybe he's looking to be sold. I don't know. They started Burrell up front, Runan Burrell, who only played 31 games for them last season, and also scored 10 goals, to be fair. So, yeah, seems to have a bit of competition at QPR. And while he would have competition here, I think Pablo's not much competition. He would start over Pablo easily. Let's look at the next option that I was contemplating. How do I get back to search? Sorry. Right, yeah. And the next one is going to be... I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but hear me out. Carlton Morris, right? Plays for Derby County now. Obviously, I think everyone will know him from Luton. When Luton were in the Premier League, he did quite well. I was quite impressed. I think he's one of those players, and you sort of look at him. You look at that Luton squad, and you look at him, and you look at... what was the other guy called? I can't remember what the other one was called. Sorry, I'm just trying to remember. They had the guy at front, and he has the name that the City player had. The City player who scored against Arsenal, and he went and ran and celebrated in front of fans. Oh, what was the guy's name? Sorry, it's going to really annoy me. Let me pause it for 2 seconds. Right, I found it. It was Adebayo. He's got a very long name. I'm not going to read it all out. But he sort of, him and Morris sort of competed for the number 9 spot. Morris often played at attacking midfield in Edward's system. We had the 2 10s behind the 9. And I was always really impressed when I watched him. I thought he got stuck in. He could get on the ball. He could do a bit of stuff with the ball. He could drop deeper. He could get high up. He could take a chance. I always really liked him when I watched Luton play in the Premier League. He obviously went on to play for Luton in the Championship, and then they got relegated, and he went to Derby, where he scored 12 goals last season, right? 12 goals in 31 games. That's a pretty good return. When he was in the Premier League, he scored 11 goals, right? So we know that if we were to go up, he could do a job. I wouldn't start him. I'd probably have him on the bench. He got 11 goals and 4 assists in the Premier League, right? That's 15 goal contributions in 38 games. Played every game for them, right? So, he doesn't really get too injured. Looking at his games played record, it's only last season he didn't play over 40 games. He only played 31, so he obviously had a little injury there, but not too bad. Again, as an option, and he scored 12 in 31, got 2 assists. Right, a 7 average rating on FootMob. For me, that's he probably cost 2-3 million. He is 30 years old. He's not young, but I think we maybe need an older striker, right? So for me, I would absolutely get him in. I think he's a big lad, right? He'll, I trust him to be able to get stuck in and have a bit of a rough and tumble and use his strength. And 97% for aerial duels won, 86% for touches, 85% for defensive contributions. These are really good stats, right, for a Nuno system. I think he'd be perfect for Nuno. And yes, he's 30 years old, but we need to get over that a little bit and just accept he is a good player, right? So he might be a good option, right, and a cheaper option, right, to get in, perhaps as a fourth choice, not a fourth choice, but as a fourth sense as striker, right? Have Tati, have Pirot, have Morris, and Pablo, or if Tati leaves, and get someone else. But if we're going to play 2 up front, we need 4 strikers. So if he's a cheaper option, I would really like to see him play for West Ham, right? Even if it's just for a year or 2. Right. My next option. Let me just find him. So you've got a couple of other options. I'm going to talk through why I don't think we should get them. Hego at West Brom. Really like him as a striker. He's hard working, and he can take a chance, score some good goals. However, my one concern with him is that he's a little bit like Tati is. He works very hard, and Pablo, he works very hard. he gets stuck in, he's involved all over the pitch, maybe not the best in front of goal. He can be a bit inconsistent. So like last season, he had a really good run at one point where he scored 5 in 5 or whatever, but then he also took him quite a while to get his first goal, and he missed some chances that I sort of thought, I would really rather you be scoring them as a striker. They were good chances. Obviously, Zian Fleming, we saw the other day how good he is. Would love him, just not going to happen. He would cost 20 million quid, wouldn't he? We're not going to get him. Sorry, just having a little peruse of what... I mean, Sheffield United obviously have Bamford. He got 12 goals in 28 games last season. I think his injury record puts me off him because, 28 games in the Championship, if that's what you're playing, you're missing almost 20 games there. That's not great injury record. And then obviously you've got... where's the guy? You got Colby Bishop at Portsmouth. I know he scores a few. What's his return? Sorry. See, this is why you don't work with technology, right? Colby Bishop at Portsmouth. What's his return like? Okay, yeah, not that great. He only scored 4 goals last season in 42 games. No, 3 in 42 Championship games. He got 11 this season before in 32. Again, he's very inconsistent. He's quite old. He's 29. Maybe not the best option if he's not sort of really kicked on by the time he's got to 29. But yeah, those would be my centre forward options, really. Those two would be the ones I'd really be looking at and going, okay, I like the look of those. Let's really, use those. Obviously, a lot of people say for Potnik. Now, I'm a bit mixed on Potnik because you look at his goals that he scored last season, he scored 23. Right, obviously, you'd be thinking, yes, get him in. That's a very good return. I think it's been a while since we've seen a Championship striker really sort of score that many goals, right? I think we've seen a lot of, over, recent years of really quite poor returns where people haven't scored as many goals as they used to, right? When you look at how many Bowen scored in like half a season, it's very much being these... Yeah, you look at the season 4, it was only 19 for Joel Perez to get the Championship Golden Boot. So I quite like the 23-goal return, but all I keep hearing is he's overrated, and that just really puts me off him. Right, and maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just listening too much to what people are saying and not using my brain enough and watching with my own eyes. Haven't really watched him play. I have watched him play once. I watched him play against West Bromwich Albion. And I think he did score in that game, if I remember rightly. West Brom went 2-0 down and won 3-2. It was one of the most amazing games I've ever watched live. Really enjoyed that game. But just going back, he's a Slovenian international. I quite like that. Where's the game? But yeah, I'm not against it, right? I'm not against it as a signing. Yeah, he did score in that game. He scored in the first minute. Yeah, it was. But again, he got a little bit lucky with that one. The defending, I think that might have been the one where there was one where the keeper got it in his hands and then dropped it and it went into the net. And it should have been saved. But yeah, look, if we get him, I'll back him. And the fact that he, the fact that he scored 23 goals, I think there's got to be something there, right? He can't be that overrated. But we'll have to see how he does this season. Next, I think we look at left back because I think, well, fullbacks. We'll just look at fullbacks in general. You've also got Fisher in Norwich. I watched him play against West Bromwich Albion the other day. Liked him. He looked good. I've seen some Norwich fans say he's not necessarily as good going forwards, which is the big criticism. They want someone who's a bit more attacking, especially after the other day with how much Norwich really struggled to score against West Brom. They think that maybe perhaps he didn't help to that. He was contributory. Talking to fullbacks, I really like Callum Stars from West Brom. He's an interesting one. Here's why, because I wouldn't say that he's a good enough left back to play in the Premier League. However, he is also a midfielder. I think he is primarily a midfielder who has played left back for West Brom, right? Because they didn't really have a left back at the time. They just lost their main left back and they play like a centre back there. And I think he was West Brom's best player last season, right? He was really good, really solid, good at both ends. He got got on the pitch. He provided some assists. He provided some good balls into the box. He can beat his man. You know, he's good at recovering and getting back. And he's defensively, he's not as good. But for a team in our position, you want a good attacking fullback. And you can sort of, for one of them, for left back, you can sort of, because we've got a good right back at both ends, you can kind of have a left back who's maybe a bit stronger attacking than defending. If you've got the other option, like we have a good defensive fullback, we've got Scars, he's good defensively, so then you go get a more attacking option in front of him. And I think while he wouldn't be good enough to play left back in the Premier League or start left back in the Premier League, he could be a midfielder, because I think he plays midfield for Hungary. Well, he's Hungarian. You know, he wins a lot of aerial duels, 79% for left backs, or full backs. He has a lot of touches for a fullback, 76% for touches for a fullback. 55% for chances created, so pretty average on that front. But, you know, I think in a better team, I think West Brom tries to play a lot of defensive, sort of really trudgy football. And I think for a team that maybe get forwards a bit more and have a bit more in their attack, he could definitely, those numbers would go up a lot, because he would have the chances and he would have players around him to facilitate a more attacking style of play that he has. And I think, yeah, he could definitely play in midfield for us in the Premier League. Possibly he's had some really good midfield performances for Hungary against like top countries like Portugal. So he is capable of competing with players much better than the Championship quality that he's used to, right? So yeah, I would look at him as an option. Obviously, I'm devastated for West Brom to lose him, because where I go uni, they're the team I go watch. But if he's going to West Ham, then it's kind of a sad one. It's like when we bought Fernandes from Southampton, right? And I was really delighted we bought Fernandes from Southampton. Hold on. But by buying Fernandes from Southampton, it gave them the money to go and buy fellows from West Brom, so it was like a knock-on effect. And I really like fellows at West Brom. Talking of wing options, Tom Fellows from Southampton, you know, I would have said if we had lost Jarrod Bowen, I would have been all in on the Tom Fellows train, right? Because I love him. I think he's a great player. Now he doesn't start for Southampton, right? Even though he's more than capable of it. He got 14 assists. He was the top assister in the league the year before last. Great crosser. He's great at running in and getting a cross in. Very similar to Bowen for me in the sense that, again, he's not the flashiest player in the world. He's not going to take on a whole team by himself like Cienza might try and do, right? But he's effective, right? And then probably the perfect player to replace Jarrod Bowen. Now, I think goals was the one thing that I thought he lacked. So when he had that 14 assist season, everyone said, oh, he should go up to the Premier League. I said, I think he needs another season starting at Championship level to work on his scoring game, because I think he does have it in him. It's just a composure issue, right? Which I think another season starting, he's a bit older, get to 23, 22, 23, you're going to be a bit better at that. For Southampton, he's not really had the minutes he probably deserves. And I think it's really unfortunate. I think he's often been played at fullback, which he is capable of doing, but as a large, it's not his preferred position. And, even though he had limited minutes last season, he still managed to register 8 assists, right? He got assists against Arsenal, I think. Well, he's very integral to one of the goals against Arsenal. He played well against Arsenal in that cup game, because I watched it and I was really rooting for him. He started. So he has got it to play against Premier League opposition, right, if he needs to, and if we were to go up. But yeah, I really like him as a player. 23 years old now, only just turned 23, so by the time we go into Premier League, he's going in about 24, which is a sort of last chance age for you to really become a Premier League player. And yeah, look, I think he's a good player. I think a good option, and I would really don't think he would cost too much money. I think Southampton went for 10 million, but based on how he's not played so much, I think they would probably sell him for less. You could probably get him for 8 million. I'd do that as a backup to Bowen. Really good, especially if we don't go up in a year's time, then I'd definitely go and get him, because I think one thing that I wouldn't like is to see him be a backup to Bowen, because I think he's better than that. Not better than Bowen, but isn't better than being a backup. So if we've got Bowen, I wouldn't necessarily, unless we got a really good deal, then I would say maybe steer clear. But if we can, get him for a cheap deal, I would absolutely. I think we've struggled for creativity and for goals, and if you got him whipping in balls to a big striker, right, like Carlton Morris, as I suggested. That's goals. That is goals. Because he just has this knack of putting in the perfect cross for any situation. And they're very varied crosses. Sometimes they're across the floor. Sometimes they're really whipped in. Sometimes they're sort of these really janky looking ones that just find the player perfectly. He is so good. I had some other players I was going to mention. I can't. What was the other player I was going to mention? Sorry, hold on. Obviously, you've got another player we were linked with at the start of the window, Sorba Thomas. I quite like Sorba Thomas. Seen him play. I like the fact that he seems to be very versatile and the fact he's good at assisting and good at scoring. I love players who like that. I really don't like really one-trick wingers, right? So they're really good at scoring or really good at assisting. I know I'm contradicting myself slightly because Tom Fellows is a bit one-trick. But as I said, I think he is capable of being two-trick. He just needs to develop in the Championship. And it's why I look at a player like, say, Saka. I think he's a little bit one-trick. I think Madueke is very one-trick. He's just pace, burning for pace. And when that doesn't work, he kind of is out of options. It's why I really love Bowen, because I think he isn't one trick. I think under Nuno, part of the reason he struggles is because he is kind of made to be one trick, right? Because the whole point of Bowen is unpredictable. You don't know whether he's going to go right and try and drive into the byline and cross it in, or cut inside, and that's why he can keep doing it, right? That's why defenders haven't been able to contain him for all these years, because if you try and stop one, he'll do the other, right? Whereas under Nuno, he doesn't have the space to cut inside because we have two strikers, so he's having to just go to the byline all the time, and the defender knows that, so they're able to much more easily contain him. But then he wins a lot of corners, so it kind of, it's not all the end of the world, but it'd be nice if he had the space to cut into. Anyway, Sorba Thomas, very versatile, much like Manuel Solomon in the sense that you look at his last season in the Championship, 10 goals, 11 assists. I think Solomon was pretty much the same, if not slightly higher. Perfect backup, really. Now, the problem would be the transfer fee. FitMob has been marked down to 6.1 million, so you're probably looking at 10 million. But again, a backup to cost more than the starter. It does give you the option of putting Solomon in the middle, and then you can play Sorba Thomas on the left. He can also play right wing, and it also so you can play all across the right side, really, right back, right wing back, right middle. So he is a player you could possibly chuck on late in a game if you're losing, to try and pad out that right side. If we could get him for a good fee, absolutely. I think the concern is 27, 10 million is a lot for a Championship player. And the fact we didn't go for him in the first place. And it has taken him until last season to really become a Championship player. He had an alright season with Huddersfield a few years ago, to be fair, 23-24, 4 goals, 9 assists. That's not a bad return. They got relegated that season, I think, as well. So, was that not back when they had Callum Marshall and stuff? Yeah, they got relegated that season. So that's a good return for a team that got relegated. So I'm not against it. Not against it at all. Would love it if he came here. But I can understand why there's maybe reservations from the club towards him. On to the next player. Now we're going to finish it off talking about centre-backs. This is an interesting one because I think everyone wants different things for a centre-back, right? I think we all want someone who's big, who's strong, who's good at heading the ball. Obviously, some are going to want someone who can pass. I don't really care about that. I just want them to be able to defend. But if they can pass, it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing, but only if it's in addition to being able to do other stuff. Now, we talked about Dylan Lawler. The club have mentioned Dylan Lawler. Harwood Bellis always gets brought up. Not so keen on Harwood Bellis. I really don't rate him, to be particularly honest with you. He's not a Premier League level player. He's probably good for the Championship. He's good for the Championship. But I think we need someone who's, my concern is not so much that he wouldn't be good enough for the Premier League, but the fact that the club would try and pretend that he's good enough for the Premier League, convince themselves he's good enough for the Premier League, so we didn't have to buy someone. And then we would be in trouble because he wouldn't be good enough. Because we've seen it, right? He was not that great when Southampton went up. So yeah, that would be my concern with that one. Another centre-back I quite like. So, Cordoba at Norwich. Again, watched him the other day. He was massive. He can move though. He's quite mobile, quite agile, despite being quite big, which I quite like. He is massive. He looked dangerous on the set pieces. West Brom weren't good at containing them, but he looked dangerous on the set pieces. He was heading balls. He was keeping people contained. And I thought he had a really good game. He's got a bad rating for that game here, but I thought he had a good game. The commentators, he kept coming up on the commentary. I think he had a lot of touches. He was very involved. I really liked him. Alternatively, we flip and look at the other side of that game at West Brom. George Campbell, I really like. Again, he came there last season from the MLS. And what really impresses me about Campbell is his attitude. Now, I think you look last season, West Brom were not in a good spot. They had a tough season. And I think he was one of those players that we really wanted at West Ham, who instead of really shrinking and struggling with the pressure of a relegation battle and the bad situation, he really dug deep and found it within himself to try and get the team back on track and to try and really push them. He's been made captain now. The current captain, Moat, has left to go to Derby. And I think it's really well deserved. It's not like when we appointed Zuma, it was a bit of a shock. Like no one really knew who the captain was going to be. And then they appointed Zuma and you were like, no one was against it, but everyone was a little bit like, oh, okay. I'm kind of a bit surprised about that. I don't think this one's a surprise. He was really important last season. He got 4 goals and 2 assists. Right, he's really good from set pieces. I think he's always looking dangerous from set pieces. He scored some really important set piece goals for them last season. Right, when they were in these battles and they just out of nowhere he would score this goal that would get them a point or whatever. He was deployed a lot of right back as well last season, which I think really didn't suit him so much. He was mixed, right? Because I think he struggled in the final third. I think he was good up until the final third often, and sometimes he could get caught out of position at right back. But he could play there, right? So if we were to have a crisis at right back, he could play there, right? Is it ideal? No. But he could do it if we really need him to, which is always nice to have that. Like, they can do it if we really, really need them to. But yeah, I think he's the perfect attitude to try and win yourself a league. And to try and, I think he will just keep going. He will take the burden and the responsibility on. And he won't suffer from doing that, which I really like about him. But I think that's most of the players I really wanted to talk about that I've kind of been thinking about. Obviously, there might be others out there that I haven't mentioned that are really good. I'm not saying these are the only good players. You look at QPR, they've got some other really good players in there. They've got Charles from Sheffield Wednesday, good goalkeeper. They've got Ronnie Edwards, who everyone wanted a couple of years ago, who seems to have done all right there. He's quite young still, trying to, I think, get up to the level. But, he's looking like he could be a good championship player. Birmingham City have some good players. They've obviously got Stansfield, who's way out of our price range, just not even worth bothering to try and go for him. Who's this guy? Yeah, okay, they seem to have a bit of a mixed squad. I've mentioned a lot of West Brom players. I know West Brom quite well, right? I watch them a lot, and I think I see a lot of things in West. I think they're quite a similar club to West Ham, in the sense that we want to see good football, we want hard workers, we want a bit more pace and mobility in the team. And I think I look at a lot of the players in there and I think often I would love that player. Right, because I've watched them for a few years, right? They're my grandma's team, they're my local-ish team at uni. They're the team I go and watch at uni because they're my grandma's team. I really, I watch a lot of West Brom. There's a couple of players I've looked at for. If we got relegated, I love them. Well, I was thinking this season when I was watching them. If we get relegated, I love them. Campbell, Fellows, not now because he's not there, but Styles, these are all players that I kind of look at and think, I really like them. Colbrand, I've been saying he was West Brom's manager. Watched him at West Brom. He would be the perfect manager for us, right? He would be. I think he can work with a very limited budget. He can make it work with players that aren't necessarily his, which I think we've desperately needed for a while. He plays a very balanced style. He's not too defensive. He's not too attacking. And he can change it based on the game. If it's a game where it's going to be really tough, he can go a bit more defensive. If he knows that they're the favourites, he'll go a bit more attacking. I really like him. I think we're not going to get him now because he's at Valencia, which is where I think he's from, that sort of area of Spain. So he wanted to move back to be closer to where he's from. And it's top flight. And he's actually done all right there. Right, he got them close to Europe twice from pretty much, relegation battles. He's a very good player. He can flip your fortunes like that. And if we were in a position where we were struggling this season, maybe he was struggling, and we could go and offer him a big sum of money to get us up, I would absolutely do it. The other manager I really like, just because I think manager, while it's not something I think we will change, I think it's something we need to change. So I'm just going to mention one other manager from the Championship that I really like, Rob Edwards. Might be unpopular, but I really like his style of football. I thought what he did with Luton was absolutely quality. I thought it was a beautiful style of football to watch. One of the most interesting teams to watch because I think they had that fight. They had that real resilience to do it. And I think they played so much better than what they were capable of, should have been capable of, to come as close as they did to staying up, to get some of the results they did. They were unfortunate. They should have got a point against Arsenal and some things like that. But they were just an incredible team in the Premier League, and I think he was doing well at Middlesbrough. I think he did very well with Wolves to get anything out of them, really, and he was very unlucky to be sacked. So yeah, I absolutely would get Rob Edwards in. I think he'd be my number one pick. I know some people have said Howe, but honestly, Howe really did inspire me at Newcastle. Like when we played Newcastle earlier this season, and he was just throwing players on, that just attackers on, and they weren't doing anything, right? It just wasn't working because he was trying to get a goal back, and it didn't really ever. He just looked lost for ideas, and I think based on how their season went, that was probably a case a lot this season. So yeah, but those are my picks for players, managers, all over the pitch that I would like. A lot of West Brom. Yeah, we need some players, and we need some good Championship players. So I would really like us to see us go and get some of these Championship players.